This is Residents in a Room, an official podcast of the American Society of Anesthesiologists, where we go behind the scenes to explore the world from the point of view of anesthesiology residents.
How important mentorship is for growth and for confidence.
Acknowledges the path that I'm on and maybe doesn't have the exact same route, but can also see where there are some pitfalls.
The best mentees are the ones that reach out to me and tell me what they need from me.
Welcome to Residents in a Room, the podcast for residents by residents. I'm your host for today's episode, Dr. Ellie Tuchaai. I'm a CA1 at UT Southwestern Anesthesiology program. Today, I'm excited to discuss mentorship with our amazing guest, Dr. Joy Chen. She is the best. And today, I'm not alone. I have another fellow resident with me for this conversation. Let's meet them first.
I'm Robert Minniti. I'm a PGY1 or CA0 at Tidal Health here in Maryland.
Incredible. Thanks for joining us. All right, now let's meet our amazing guest, Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen, can you introduce yourself to listeners and maybe share a little bit about your own experience as a mentor and a mentee, and tell us why mentorship is important to you?
Hi, Ellie. It's so exciting to be on this podcast with you and Dr. Minniti. So thank you guys for inviting me. My name is Joy Lo Chen, and I'm an anesthesiologist and intensivist at UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, Texas with Ellie. And I practice general anesthesiology mostly at Parkland Hospital and some at Clements University Hospital. I also practice critical care at the Dallas Veterans Affairs Hospital, where I serve as the medical director of the surgical ICU and co-medical director of the thoracic ICU. As far as your question about my experience as a mentor and mentee, I guess I'll start with my experience as a mentee. I mean, thinking back, I've been really blessed to have amazing mentors throughout my life, even as a child. And a lot of these mentors were really like the informal ones. In residency, the residents that were more senior to me that I connected with were often some of the best mentors. They would help me in the OR and help me learn my anesthesia skills, but they also guided me through challenging life and interpersonal situations. And then as a junior faculty, I was lucky to have one particular mentor that kind of took a chance on me when I had just started. And she started off actually as a sponsor, which, you know, somebody who opens doors for you and gives you opportunities that help build your career. And so she asked me to write a review article with her, which I had actually never done before at that time. And I agreed to do it. And I made sure to do a really good job and be very timely with what she asked of me. And then over the years, we did a lot of projects together and we became really good friends. And now she's someone I talk to about challenges I face at work and being a mom and stuff like that. And, you know, she's really guided me through some tough times, and so grateful that I've had her mentorship and friendship. And then just in the last few years, actually, at UT Southwestern, our department invested in developing a mentorship and coaching program. And so I got set up with an amazing mentor and coach, and she's also sponsored me as well. And also she's guided me through some tough times as well. So I've been very lucky as a mentee. And shifting over to my experience as a mentor, I started mentoring residents formally several years ago as a junior faculty. Our residency program directors would assign a resident to me each year, and I would go through their evaluations and check in with them every so often. And this was very rewarding for me, especially, you know, with the residents that I really bonded with. So we would go out to dinner, and sometimes we'd do group mentorship. So all of my residents from the different years would all get together, and it was really fun. And, you know, I still keep up with many of my mentees now, many years later. And I say it's rewarding because now that I've been doing this for a little while, I get to see my mentees go on and have successful careers. And I'd love to think that I contributed to that in a small way.
Hi, Dr. Chen. What can mentors expect from us? We don't want to disappoint them, but I think that for some of us, this can be a first experience having a mentor, especially in a side of residency. To you, what does being a good mentee actually look like?
Well, hi, Dr. Minniti. I'm really glad you asked this question because as mentors, we really want you to get the most out of the relationship, and nobody really tells you how to be a good mentee. But for me, the best mentees are the ones that reach out to me and tell me what they need from me. And great mentees respond in a timely way. They answer your texts and emails. They don't sit on it for a week, and they keep me updated on what's going on with them. And I really think great mentees are the ones that are self-starters and very proactive. And I want to make sure to say that it's totally okay to ask your mentor to connect you with other potential mentors if that's something that you need from them. Perhaps your current mentor isn't in the specialty that you want, and they may know somebody else that can offer something that they don't know about. Like, say, if you wanted to be an OB anesthesiologist, well, I'm not an OB anesthesiologist, but I have friends who are. And so you won't offend me as your mentor by asking me to help make those connections.
Thank you for sharing your journey so far. How can we find a mentor? And are you able to share some tips and resources for connecting with potential mentors?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I do think the informal in-person mentors at your respective institutions is the best place to start. So these mentors know the same system you operate in, they interact with the same people that you do, and they're going to be able to give you the best guidance when it comes to navigating your specific situation. If you feel like you connect with a particular attending, I would ask them if they'd be a mentor to you. They'd probably be really excited and honored to be asked. I do also recommend looking outside of your institution to get some broader perspective. The ASA actually created a mentorship program a couple years ago. You guys might know about it, and it's been wildly successful. I was on the mentorship subcommittee. You just go to the website. It's asahq.org/mentor. So asahq.org/mentor. And you go on there and you fill out the mentee intake form where you put in all of your interests. And if you're interested in pediatric anesthesia and you want to go to a fellowship on the West Coast or something, you can filter for subspecialty and geographic region. And also, you don't have to limit yourself to one mentor. If you have multiple mentors, they can offer you perspectives in different areas. And if any of your listeners are interested in critical care, the Society of Critical Care Anesthesiologists, or SOCA, their annual meeting's actually this weekend in Montreal. So SOCA is about to launch their own mentorship program. And I would highly recommend becoming a member to take advantage of this benefit if you have any interest in going into critical care.
Well, we appreciate that, Dr. Chen, and definitely something for those of us who are interested in critical care to kind of be on the lookout for. But I guess in your experience, how do we know if a potential mentor will be a good fit for us? What aspects should we be thinking about? And is there someone that a junior resident or a young attending might ask about or look for?
Yeah, what I would look for in a mentor is someone who actively listens and just genuinely cares about you as a person and wants the best for you, and also, very importantly, has time for you. The best mentors are ones that also, they don't hold back constructive feedback. They'll tell you if they think you should change your approach or do something differently. And one of the most important things to remember is that if your mentor isn't a good fit, like maybe you've been assigned a mentor, you're not connecting with them, or, maybe you've just outgrown them and you need someone with a different skill set or perspective, it's also okay to thank them and respectfully end the formal mentorship relationship, but maybe just still keep in touch informally. And this opens up both the mentor and mentee to other relationships and opportunities.
That's awesome. That's a really important point, is knowing which mentor you can connect with and not feeling bad if that's not the right direction to take that relationship down. So, Dr. Chen, if you're willing, would you be able to share with us some benefits that we can get from being mentored and having a mentor in our lives? And what can we maybe expect, and what are the benefits of that?
Yeah, that's also a great question. I think there's so many benefits to mentorship. You have the very tangible ones where, if you're looking for a specific connection with somebody to help you get to where you're going, like a certain fellowship or something like that, there's tangible benefits like that. But also there's other less tangible ones, which is, I think, just job satisfaction. If there's somebody that you connect with at work that understands what you're going through and can be there to listen to you if you have issues and help give you advice, that is everything, I think. And I think this has been studied as well when people have mentorship that they progress better in their careers. Also, we talked a little bit about sponsorship, and I don't think I mentioned coaching yet, but these are distinct things, but sometimes, your mentor can become a sponsor, can be a coach, and then switch back and forth depending on what it is that you are needing at that time in your career. And so mentors can, as sponsors, can really help you build your CV. And some of my best mentors have also been my sponsors, and they've really helped me with research and learning how to write papers. And I do credit my mentors a lot for my promotion to associate professor a few years ago. So there's so many benefits there. And then great mentors are ones that kind of understand what you're going through in your phase of life. So if you're a new parent, or maybe you have a sick parent or a sick child or something like that, somebody that understands what you're going through also outside of work that can kind of guide you through those things. I don't have a quote for any specific study, but I feel like that's got to help with job retention and job satisfaction.
Absolutely. More people in your tribe to support you, and it takes a village, of course. So moving on to our next question, you've mentioned, how important mentorship is for growth and for confidence and even getting through difficult times during life, which is bound to happen. But in that, especially as a trainee and in residency, a lot of us struggle with self-doubt, even when we're doing well and we're getting good evaluations. So with that, can you talk a little bit about how imposter syndrome fits into that scenario and how mentorship can help with overcoming imposter syndrome?
Yes. Well, imposter syndrome is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I tell people that I am a recovering imposter. I actually gave a talk at TexMed, the TMA, Texas Medical Association annual meeting last year on this topic. And it's a topic that is an experience shared by many. But for anyone who isn't familiar with the term, imposter syndrome is the feeling of not belonging, or that maybe like you might get found out one day that you don't belong. You might also feel like you got to where you are by luck or some other reason, and not by your own hard work and achievements. And people with imposter syndrome generally think less highly of themselves compared to how other people view them. And, mentorship is so important here because people with imposter syndrome, they need that objective outside perspective to tell them or show them that, no, you do belong, and look at all the things that you've done and all that you've accomplished. And this perspective helps to recalibrate your view of your own value to something that is more accurate.
Dr. Chen, I like the comment on recovering imposter syndrome, because I think it shows that there's a continuity, that this is kind of something we're going to deal with in different phases of our careers. And I appreciate that you touched on that. And you've also mentioned some really strong qualities of mentors, but what about those qualities are missing? Some people refer to kind of a queen bee syndrome. What does that look like? Why does that happen? And how do you navigate those situations?
That is a really great question. I'm really glad you asked that. So for those who don't know or haven't heard about queen bee syndrome is a term used to describe someone in a position of power, usually a woman in a male-dominated field, such as our own in medicine, who may not support or may even distance themselves from more junior colleagues, usually also women. And at the extreme, sometimes these queen bees also actively curtail opportunities for junior women and maybe even speak negatively about them to other people, including leadership, kind of influencing their reputation, sort of. And for those that have experienced this, it can be very distressing. I myself have experienced this. And, someone said something to me once that really inspired me along these lines. And they said, empowered women empower women. And I myself, being a mid-career female anesthesiologist, I try to make sure that I am bringing up the younger generation of female physicians up behind me, and that I'm sponsoring them and I'm helping them build their careers as well. And the research on queen bee syndrome will actually tell you that this behavior isn't actually just due to women being mean girls or catty. It originates from the construct of male-dominated industries such as healthcare, where there's a scarcity of opportunities and many of these more senior women have abandoned their more characteristically female traits to kind of look more like what most people perceive leadership to look like, which are generally more masculine characteristics. And these women have often sacrificed a lot in terms of time with their family. They've taken on extra clinical work. They've done their research on personal time. And they may see junior women as not as deserving if they aren't willing to make all those same sacrifices. So I'm not trying to excuse this behavior because sometimes it can be very toxic, but sometimes it does help to understand like the background of the behavior. And I love the quote, "To know all is to forgive all." So I do think some understanding of the systemic issues around queen bee syndrome helps us give others some grace and then, learn to put our energy towards finding avenues that do help us build our careers. And as far as navigating queen bee syndrome, my advice is to not take it personally and just steer in a different direction. Find the mentors out there that want to empower you. And also, when you transition to the mentor phase, make sure you are someone that empowers others as well and breaks the mold a little bit. And I'm really glad that, RJ, that you asked this question, because this doesn't just apply to women. We need those he's for she's out there that are supportive of advancing women.
Wow, that is such an awesome comment that you made about those who know all forgive all. Could you repeat that phrase?
It's to know all is to forgive all.
To
Like, if
know
you
all is to
understand
forgive all.
what the
Yes.
motivation is, behind the things that people do, like it's easier to forgive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing all your experience with that. And from a personal experience with you, Dr. Chen, and working with you in the SICU, I have seen you empower myself, my co-residents, male or female, and it's so wonderful to see and see you kind of pass your joy, to use your first name, along to other residents who are coming up through the ranks and encouraging us to overcome hard challenges, to stay in our field and kind of challenge us to go into a fellowship or start a family. Both of those things you have done yourself. And it's important to not diminish our femininity as women in medicine, because femininity is inherently nurturing and empathetic. And those qualities go such a long way, not just as a physician, but as a mentor. So thank you for sharing your experience there.
Yeah, Ellie, thank you for that comment. You're so sweet. And yeah, you're totally right. We need to change what good leadership looks like to people, and I try to model the empowering women perspective so that hopefully, if I set a good example for you guys, that you guys will do the same as you become more senior to the people coming up behind you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I know that you may have some questions for us. We can turn the tables, and if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to ask you guys some questions. Also, just for my curiosity and for my own desire to be a better mentor to you all. What I want to know is, what do you wish mentors understood better about what residents actually need right now? Because, we could have some blind spots, and it'd be good to hear that.
I can touch on this a little bit. One of our program coordinators, a very lovely lady by the name of Amy Argott, went to a developmental conference for GME last year. And I think one of the talking points she brought back that was very interesting was that residents and mentors and mentees kind of all have different learning styles.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes, depending on who we're paired with, maybe for the day in the OR or our mentor, even themselves long term, we can have differences in learning styles. And so how would you address that? Are you always just trying to seek someone who has a similar learning style to you? Or are you trying to kind of navigate the waters of, oh, I understand that this person maybe is more visual or is more tactile as a learner. So like, let me try and gear my responsibilities and my efforts into something that works more for them.
Yeah, I feel like this is where you can differentiate between a really good mentor and like an individualized mentor versus kind of more of a generic one. But yeah, if a mentor is willing to invest in you and really understand how you learn, especially even just like a teacher, not even necessarily a mentor, but like a teacher to you, I feel like that can make such a good, strong impact on learners. But for me, actually, like I didn't even realize I was an auditory learner until even just a few years ago. So I like listening to podcasts and audiobooks a lot more than I like to actually physically read something. So, like I said, I think it's about investing in each individual person that you're mentoring or teaching and finding out those things about them. You may not find that out just by working with them in the operating room for a day, but sometimes, like on the ends of our weeks, I'll do like a end of the week lunch in the ICU, and we'll kind of just like get to know each other and talk about non-medical things. And I feel like doing that deep dive and understanding people on a deeper level helps you find those things out. So I have another question for you all. So what have you guys experienced as the barriers to finding really good mentors? Because I feel like I hear this a lot, that it's really hard to find a good mentor.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know that there isn't necessarily a lack of really good mentors, like so many really good mentors exist. I think it's just about connecting with the right one in an organic way. And I do think that some of the barriers to entry with that is, I think, just the way that anesthesia residency occurs. So, intern year, you're kind of not really doing as much anesthesia. You're kind of off on your off service rotations, and it can be hard to form those connections. And then when you're a CA1, you're typically working with new attendings every day, and it's someone different every day. Of course, in the ICU, we get typically a week-long stretch, but that doesn't dominate our course. Luckily, I've had 2 months of ICU this year already, but some people only have one a year or none. And so trying to maintain and quickly establish those relationships with meeting a different attending every single day. And maybe you did really enjoy working with one attending, but you may not see them for several months after that. And even in that time, during that day, your attending is likely running at least one other room. And so it's hard to get that long-term conversational kind of connection going when you're in the high intensity at times. Of course, there's downtime within the OR, but those high intensity, high impact moments, and then also punctuated within learning a new skill, intubating, learning how to use your ultrasound better for the A-line. So it is hard, I think, just by nature of our field to get those consistent moments that kind of foster conversation that lead to getting that relationship with that good mentor, who they exist. It's just hard to make that connection.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that, because it does sound like our field, we kind of had these like short bursts of connection and then not as much of like a longer term relationship. But I have to say, like, I will really enjoy it, like when I connect with a resident in the operating room and, maybe we're talking about like restaurants or something, because I love food.
Yeah.
A little too much probably, but if they're interested in food and they recommend a restaurant, or I recommend a restaurant, and then they go and then they text me a picture of the food and they're like, oh, this was great or whatever, that kind of deepens that relationship a little bit, or you talk about a vacation that you went on, and if you connect on something and then just follow up later on with a text message, and maybe it's not about medicine or anything, but I feel like that kind of solidifies the relationship a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you bring up a good point of maybe even as a fresh CA1, I was scared to bring up conversation topics outside of medicine because I wanted to make sure that my attending knew that I was focused on the task at hand. And
that
also
you were serious.
Yeah, I'm being serious, and like I'm not just carelessly going through the motions of learning, being new in the operating room. So I was often at times like trepidatious or hesitant to bring up, oh, what movie have you watched lately? Or, a different conversation topic. So I think what would really help, and tying this back in with question one about what do you wish mentors understood better about what residents need, is maybe, the freedom to talk about something else, which of course that exists, but just having that attending lead that first initial conversation of taking it a different direction. Like, what are some good restaurants around Parkland? But yeah, I think that would go a long way, especially when you're more junior, like,
Yeah.
intern in Vapor Camp or July CA1. I think that goes a long way. And it
Yeah.
just kind of takes everything down a few relaxation notches.
Yeah. So maybe even like having the attending kind of start that informal conversation. I mean, I just like to ask people, like, if I'm working with them in the OR for the first time, I'm like, Ellie, tell me about yourself. Where are you from?
Yeah.
And it kind of gets you going. And then people will talk about their families and stuff like that. So you kind of get to know them on not just like a, hey, how do you like to intubate level? You know?
Yes. And you're definitely particularly good at getting to know us on a personal level. And I think sharing that with all attendings, I think will go a long way because they may be also afraid to ask residents about family life or how things are going in Dallas or whatever city. So just knowing that that freedom is there.
Hmm. Yeah. Some of it, I guess, is like kind of feeling out your attending. Like
Yes.
some
Yeah, yeah.
attendings are probably more interested in having those types of conversations. So just kind of meeting people where they're at, I guess.
Yeah.
I do have another question. Talking about how sometimes it is difficult to find good mentors. Do you guys, RJ or Ellie, have you ever had any really great mentorship experiences that you can share?
I think I got very fortunate in just kind of running into people, but I'm also notorious for kind of talk paint off a wall. So I think that that's an excellent skill I might have in my back pocket. I'm recalling prior to medical school, I actually worked with a GI and hepatology specialist, a very nice physician at VCU, formerly MCV, named Arun Sanyal, and he was kind of the king of the liver world, if you will. And I really didn't have that much interest in GI and hepatology, but he did a really great job of kind of emphasizing the medicine and then also showing me some of the beauty inside of things that maybe I didn't have a gross appreciation for right out of the gate. And then COVID kind of happened around that time too. And we really bonded because it was he and I running a clinical trial together. And so I'm spending probably 60 hours, 70 hours a week with a pretty senior attending who's like tenured and everything like that. So
Mhm.
I think, like most things, time breeds familiarity, and then also kind of situations can really help push things together. But I also love the informality that you kind of take with your approach with maybe some of your junior residents. And that's like really reassuring as someone who is very, very green and new to the field of anesthesia, and just knowing that, hey, these attendings are humans and people too, and they're not just in here to criticize everything you're doing, but they also want to genuinely come to know you as a person and really
Mhm.
have a good understanding of maybe other things that are going on inside your life besides, hey, we've got 3 more cases on the board, let's get these done.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned I'm not here just to criticize you. I do feel like if you have that connection with people on a non-work level, it's a little bit easier, I guess, to give feedback to, because if the person that's giving you feedback knows a little bit about you as a person and seems to care about you, then that feedback sometimes it can be more significant. You can see past the criticism and see that, oh, this person actually is really trying to help me. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I do have one final question. If you guys could design the ideal mentorship experience for yourself, what would that look like?
That's a great question. In an ideal setting, and I think this comes with time and just being in residency and going through each level of training and getting confidence in yourself. But as far as finding a mentor and what that relationship looks like across those years during residency, I think the most ideal way is to, meet organically if possible, like a day in the ORs. And like we discussed, don't be afraid to find that connection with that attending if they're that type of person.
Mm.
And that relationship develops from spending a day together and that teacher student relationship that then becomes mentor mentee, that then later, over the course of several years, it becomes friend. You become
Hmm.
friends with that person and they're with you and can give you advice through difficult times in life. And they're there to celebrate you during great achievements, graduating residency, finding your career takeoff spot. So I think that progression from teacher student to friend and friend is the ideal mentorship experience for me.
Yeah, I love that. Because probably like, I guess, a little over 10 years out from training, but some of the best moments, I think, of seeing you guys grow your wings and fly the nest is some of you guys end up staying on, and then I always tell the ones that I really connect with, I'm really excited to be colleagues with you. I'm really excited that you're now going to be a peer to me. And some things that you may not be able to talk about as a attending / resident in that kind of relationship, but you can develop a deeper, more friend-based relationship when you guys graduate. And I really look forward to that a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think Ellie touched really nicely on kind of that progression. I think mentorship and menteeship is not really a static thing. And for me, I really like how you laid it out, that there is kind of the difference between intern to CA1 to CA2 to CA3, and then finally graduating into a full-grown attending. And I think for me, a good mentor just basically acknowledges the path that I'm on, and maybe doesn't have the exact same route, but can also see where there are some pitfalls and warn me about them. And then also where some of the best successes or greatest achievements can kind of be found as well, maybe if I wasn't fully aware of it. So I think just someone who's there to grow with you and someone who's willing to experience things and kind of adapt is a really great mentor.
Yeah, that really resonates with me too. I do find that as far as in our ASA mentorship program, that a lot of people are looking for mentors that are like just a little bit farther along than they are. They're not really looking a lot for mentors that are like full professors. They want somebody that's just been through the same thing that they've been through, which is kind of what you're saying, like kind of warn them about the pitfalls and give them heads up about things. So yeah, so that definitely makes sense. And it sounds like a lot of people are looking for the same kind of thing. So that's why we really love recruiting more junior faculty as mentors to residents or other even more junior faculty, because you guys are all kind of going through the same thing in the same time frame.
Awesome. That was such a great conversation. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today, Dr. Chen, and your experiences. And thanks to you too, Dr. Minniti, for joining us for this conversation. And big thanks to our listeners. Join us again soon for more Residents in a Room, the podcast for residents by residents.
Hello, ASA. I'm Dr. Patrick Guillaume, your ASA president, and this is the Monday Morning Minute. First, our legislative conference is coming up May 18th through 20th in Washington, D.C. With rapidly changing political dynamics and upcoming midterm elections, your engagement matters now more than ever. Register through your state component society today, and I hope to see you in D.C. Next, ASA launched a new webpage addressing anesthesia and genetic neurologic mortality risks. The page includes global society statements, peer-reviewed publications, and patient videos in both English and Spanish. And last, April was National Stress Awareness Month. ASA is here for you with resources to help you manage burnout and improve your well-being. ASA's Safe Haven program offers confidential support for mental health and work-life balance with benefits for you and your family members. Also, check out the resources on our website from the ASA Committee on Physician Well-Being. That's it for now. I hope you'll follow us on your favorite social media channels and check out my weekly Monday morning outreach.
For more detailed and timely information, don't miss Dr. Guillaume's Monday morning outreach email delivered exclusively to ASA members' inboxes every Monday at 5 a.m. Eastern. Whether you're looking to be a mentor to share what you've learned and help a colleague, or you need guidance and support from a peer who has been there and done that, the ASA Mentoring Program provides an on-demand mentoring relationship so you achieve your personal and professional goals. Explore details and sign up now at asahq.org/mentoring. Join us for Residents in a Room, where we'll share timely info, advice, and resources designed to help residents succeed in residency and beyond. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or visit asahq.org/podcasts for more.